What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and I'm here to bring you some more 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. Today, I got an awesome one for you. I was contacted by the homie Adam C, and this guy has been working on his Grot army. Yes, you heard that right, guys. We are talking about not the orcs, but the Gretchen and the Grots. He's basically made a Grot / Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum army, which is what they're now called, and he combined them together. So this is some really awesome lore that this guy put together. He literally wrote everything down in a 40 facts format, which is amazing. Big props to you, man. So without further ado, let's dive into this awesome 40k lore on the Grot Revolution. Rebel Grots are not an uncommon thing within Orc society. However, those who become more than a slight annoyance to the local Orc leader are quickly quelled. It is rare for Grots to amass enough strength to confront their abusive masters directly, but the largest rebel cell is the infamous Gretchen Revolution, also known as Graz Kohl. Graz Kohl started as a plot by a radical Ordo Xenos inquisitor called Hadric Valerius, who collaborated with the Adeptus Biologus to bring the orcs down from within. Looking to capitalize on the greenskins' habit to fight amongst themselves, he sought a way that would enable the Grots to fight back against their oppressors. Hadric theorized that the chaos caused by the Gretchen slaves revolting would slow or cripple an orc warband or even an orc wall. To do this, Adeptus Biologus had created a serum genetically designed to augment a Grot's weak anatomy, testing it on captured Gretchen, one of which was a small Grot named Graz Kohl. While some Grots were unfortunate enough to have their small bodies burn themselves out during the enhancement process, over a third of the test subjects survived, and they became stronger and smarter. During this time, Graz Kohl used his wit and cunning to establish himself as the head honcho of the imprisoned Grots. Seeing his potential as a leader, the Inquisitor had him subjected to intense hypnotherapy and training in both strategy and tactics. Inquisitor Hadric then decided it was time to test his creations out in the field. He gathered together the best of the enhanced Gretchen for Graz Kohl to lead against a small orc encampment. The Gretchen leader felt they needed a name, and thus they decided they would be called the Red Stars. Recent attacks by the Astra Militarum forces, ordered by the Inquisitor, had killed the majority of these orcs. The Gretchen now outnumbered them 8-1, making it the perfect test run for the Red Stars. Graz Kohl reveled the chance to liberate his fellow Gretchen, but he knew he would have to deal with the camp's leader, a knob by the name of Grimjaw. So leading the rebel Grots into the encampment, Graz Kohl devised a way to remove the orc knob. Working with the local Grots, they stole a section of explosives and armor from around the camp to set a trap for Grimjaw. Graz Kohl then approached the orc knob, telling him that a rival knob had come to take charge of his boys, believing him to be a better war boss. Enraged, Grimjaw leapt down to face this challenge head-on, too late realizing this would be a rival makeshift dummy clad in plated armor and stuffed with explosives. With their leader now scattered over most of the camp, and with the orcs in disarray, Graz Kohl rallied the Grots and led them in a mutiny against the orcs. By nightfall, not a single orc remained, and a black banner with a red star on it was raised in victory. Over the following years, the Grot Revolution would develop into a unique fighting force as it ravaged war against all other orc factions on this planet. One of the biggest developments to come from the enhanced Grots was the development of oddboy specialists within the rebellion. Grot mech and techs exhibited talent for engineering to match and often exceed that of orc counterparts. However, they do differ in their weapons and vehicles, since they lack the orc signature crude and ramshackle style of building, although their weapons are no less unstable. There is always a high number of Grot mechs boys amongst the rebels, each competing with others and seeking to outdo them with their creations. This is likely the reason for the abundance of war gear and vehicles that the Revers have access to, which allows them to hold their own against the toughest of foes. While Grot mech boys differ from their orc counterparts, there is very little contrast when it comes to the Pain boys, who also take a savage glee at any chance to fix injuries, create and attach bionics, or even attempt their own enhancements. Shortly after they had appeared, it had become evident that these pain boys had somehow managed to replace and replicate a copy of an augmentation serum crafted by the Adeptus Biologus, which they referred to as the Super Juice. Because of this discovery, they are a key part within the rebellion, as most Grots who join their ranks are often injected with this Super Juice to become stronger. A side effect of this juice is that some rebel Grots now generate a similar psychic energy akin to that created by orcs. And as a result, Gretchen Weirdboys and Warpheads begin to emerge, absorbing and channeling this new power. Unfortunately, they turned out to be just as unstable as that of their green-skinned psychers, and because of this, they are often bound or encased within cages. Those who do prove to have an amount of control over their powers are freed from their prisons and put into the care of an assigned keeper. Rather than being led by one individual, the Grot rebels are instead governed by the Revolution Committee. It is those who oversee and dictate what happens within this rebellion. The committee is led by Colonel Graz Kohl himself and 5 other Grots of suitable rank, and even an Ed Ancho from one of these revolution's many warbands can become a committee member if he achieves great things for the cause. Aside from Graz Kohl's second-in-command, the other 4 placements on the committee are not permanent. Anyone can lose their seat at the table, whether through continued failure or loss of power from within the rebellion. Colonel Graz Kohl is the leader of this committee, and he is a figurehead for the revolution. He has a natural talent to inspire fellow Grots and to take up the fight against their oppressors. Graz Kohl is a skilled strategist who prefers to use his brutal cunning to play his opponent right into his hand. It is very common for the Grot rebels to be underestimated due to the reputation of them being the weakest of the Greenskins, a fact that Graz Kohl is all too aware of, and he has made into his biggest strength afterwards. Time and time again, enemy commanders will dismiss the rebels as nothing more than an annoyance, not realizing the true threat until it is utterly too late. Some commanders even let their pride get the better of them, refusing to accept their inability to deal with Grots, and sometimes they never even call in reinforcements. Graz Kohl takes great delight in his role, and it is always in good mood, often seen with a wide grin across his face. Like all other greenskins, he enjoys a good fight, and will even take delight even if his force has been wiped out, providing that the battle was entertaining. Colonel Graz Kohl leads the revolution in many conflicts and wars over the past 9 years, during which he has liberated thousands of Gretchen. Without his inspiring presence, this rebellion would surely crumble. Despite his reputation, it is rumored that the revolution's leader is not the same Gretchen who began this rebellion all those years ago, but instead several Grots who have each taken up his name and title over the years. If this were true, it would be likely that whatever the colonel was killed in combat, it would be passed to another Grot nearby, stripping his predecessor of the trademark goggles, cap, hat, and jacket, and the new Graz Kohl would then emerge, unscathed, dismissing the injury, or gloating at his luck to the cheers and laughter of those present. If such a system does exist, then the Grots are either unaware of it, or they simply don't care, choosing to believe in a deception due to Graz Kohl's importance to the revolution. Or every Grot has taken his name and played the role to the point where few can tell the difference. This could also be due to the Greenskin's unique ability to make something work simply by thinking it does. The new colonel believes so much that he is Graz Kohl that he takes on the personality and even the memories of his predecessor. Colonel Graz Kohl's second-in-command is a fearsome Gretchen by the name of Captain Squigscream. Inspiration will only get a Grot so far, and it falls to Squigscream to retain discipline, which he does through overwhelming force and intimidation. Where Graz Kohl is always cheerful, Squigscream always is on the verge of an aggressive outburst, never smiling. He emits an aura of hostility that makes nearby Gretchen instantly fear him. The only Gretchen able to relax around Squigscream is Graz Kohl, to which he is 100% loyal to. When one Grot made the suggestion that he would make a better leader because he was the strongest, Squigscream viciously beat him to death, leaving nothing more than a red paste on the floor. When the head honcho Morgrot was to be punished for his failures, he was brought in front of the Revolution Committee. He pleaded to be given another chance, asking Graz Kohl not to get mad at his mistakes, to which Graz Kohl replied with a warning and smile. "I'm not mad." Morgot relaxed before he continued. "I have Squigscream for that, And with those words, Squigscream leapt towards Grot, dragging him away to torture him with all the manner of punishments imaginable to a Grot. Captain Squigscream is the most skilled fighter in the rebellion, rumored to have killed his former orc master by himself without any enhancements. He has an intense hatred for anything bigger than him, and actively seeks to beat them in a one-on-one combat. Fueled by an endless rage, he is able to shrug off the most grievous of wounds, and because of this he is able to hold his own against the most skilled and powerful of foes. To aid him, he has equipped with him an exosuit fashioned by the rebellion's finest mechs to boost his already considerable strength and endurance. He is also equipped with a power claw and a shooter, and he has been proven to be just as tough as any other Grot around. Captain Squigscream's most notable feat was when he single-handedly took on an Imperial Knight during a raid on a facility. Despite his furiousness, he was unable to do any real damage to it. However, the Knight could not ignore him, and he was forced to fight back. Squigscream dodged most of the Knight's attacks, and even shrugged a kick from its titanic feet. After 10 minutes, the combat was finally concluded, when Squigscream was hit hard enough by the Knight's battle cannon barrel that it sent him flying off into the distance. However, by this point, the Knight's absence had affected the outcome of the battle, in the Grot's favor that is, and they were ultimately victorious. The captain was later recovered from a warehouse on the outskirts of the facility. The immense fall had broken his body, and he was forced to endure to the care of the Grot Bane Boys until he fully recovered. Next up, we have Gaza Stripbolt, who is the rebellion's big mech and Graz Kohl's tech advisor. Stripbolt is a decent Gretchen, and he is more bot than he is Grot, his bionic body hissing and whirling with every move he makes, and his voice is coming out as a dry electronic buzz. He covers his robotic body with a long black robe, though it is unknown if this is through intimidation or mockery of the Mechanicum's own tech priests. Along with his position as Big Mech, Stripbolt is also the head honcho of the Night Tech's warband, and he is responsible for some of the rebellion's more advanced tech and vehicles. Tank Commander Nuptup. Nuptup is the smallest committee member, being only an inch taller than an unaugmented Grot. During his first years in the rebellion, he had a reputation of being a coward, often running or hiding at the first sound of gunfire. Squigscream would have fed him to the Squigs, if not for that fateful day where he hid inside one of the rebellion's tanks. The crew just assumed he was their new gunner, and they rode out to attack an orc convoy. When the fighting began, Nuptup was surprised by the sense of calm he felt, and he relished in the power that he felt when firing the tank's main weapon. Outside of the tank, he is nothing more than a cowardly Gretchen, but inside, he's a whole different greenskin and a force to be reckoned with. As time went on, he rose to become the leader of the rebellion's tank division, a warband known as Death Treads. His custom tank, the Daka King, is designed for maximum Daka. This weight of fire, coupled together with his insane accuracy, Nuptup can mow down even whole hordes of orc boys with ease. Captain Bargoza is the fifth member of the committee, and he commands the rebellion's most powerful tank, the Battle Bruiser. Created from a looted Baneblade chassis, its appearance is similar to that of a naval battleship, as its hull is covered with weapon turrets and it can transport several Gretchen within the hull. Outside of combat, it is used as a mobile command center, with the committee holding its meetings on the command deck. Bargoza takes great pride with his crew, and he will often reward them with barrels of fungus beer after a successful battle. Like the rest of his warband, he enjoys a good looting, his most favorite piece of loot being a decorated coat taken from a Hume officer, which he wears around his shoulders. Grot was the sixth and final member of the committee, but after his recent removal, a vacancy has become available, and only time will tell who will take his seat. Next down from the Grot rebel hierarchy are the head honchos. Each is a leader of a Gretchen warband. These warbands are at the core of the rebel Grot society, and with the balance of power constantly shifting between them, each one seeks to outdo each other to please Graz Kohl and the committee, as well as gaining the honor of having their warband listed as the best. Normally on a giant leaderboard within the main camp displaying the top 10 warbands, who the committee then seems to kind of can figure out who is the powerful one at the time. The ultimate sign of a warband's respect and power is their head honcho being given a place on the committee. But just as a Grot warband can rise to glory, they can also fall from it. For example, the Death Diggers, a warband that specialized in building fortifications. Their leader, Grimgit, was renewed for his fort designs, and the Hidey Holes, which are small hidden bunkers where Grot sentries could spy on others without notice and then report to their activities. They were ranked number 3 on the leaderboard for several months, with Grimgit even becoming a committee member. But after his death at the hands of an Imperial Fist captain, the Death Diggers began to slowly lose their grip on power. Now they're just a ramble of Gretchen, who like digging in the dirt, their glory days long forgotten. Now there are hundreds of warbands within this rebellion, each with their own strengths and weaknesses, but for now, let's focus on the 3 highest ranked warbands, beginning with the 3rd strongest, the Booty Hunters. They are made up of looters and thieves, and they have amassed a huge stockpile of plundered tanks, weapons which they often sell to other warbands for a profit. However, as a result of their thieving nature, they are often distrusted by their fellow Gretchen. Their head honcho is Captain Bargoza, who keeps his best boys with him to man the battle bruiser, while the other footslog into battle. Once a battle is concluded, the Booty Hunters are often swift to begin pillaging and to defend anything they find valuable. Most of them possess an uncanny knack for finding the best loot. The Boom Blasters are ranked 2nd on the leaderboard and are by far the most dangerous of the warbands, both to friend and foe alike, due to their love of explosions. If something needs to be blown up, then the Boom Blasters are the ones for the job. The most insane or dedicated of their warband become Doom Divers, who load themselves up with explosives and use a rocket pack to launch themselves off a mobile platform, flying down upon the enemy with the goal of creating the biggest explosion. This warband frequently has a change of leadership due to their head honchos having the habit of blowing themselves up, either intentionally or by accident. But despite their fickle leadership, the Boom Blasters have risen to take the number 2 spot, all thanks to the recent breakthroughs in explosive tech and the sheer devastation they can unleash upon the battlefield. The Night Techs are currently ranked as the strongest, and their strength lies in the fact that every one of them is a mech or has some kind of skill with engineering. Their leader is the Grot Big Mech, Gaza Strip Bolt. In combat, they use a variety of advanced war gear, ranging from mechanized diggers to get behind enemy lines to powerful mech gun artillery. Outside of combat, they hire out their technical skills to other warbands who need it. Nearly all other warbands within the rebellion have ties with the Night Techs, relying on them to repair and maintain their weapons and vehicles. Those few warbands who have upset or even threatened the Night Techs over the years have died soon after, often due to their weapons not working during a fight or some unfortunate accident. Now, not all Grots who join the rebellion take the super juice. Some remain unaltered, either too scared to be injected with an enhancing formula or preferring to remain small in order to be able to sneak around better. The most sneakiest of these Grots serve as either rebel agents that infiltrate orc encampments to act as a go-to between the revolution and the local Graz, or they become a rifle runt. Rifle runts are unaltered Gretchen who are skilled sharpshooters and excel in sneaking around. They're armed with a long-range rifle, and on the battlefield they rely on stealth to get into a suitable position where they can then snipe the enemy from a nice, safe distance. And next up, we have one of my own personal favorite war suits of the Rebel Grot Rebellion, and that is the Squig Suit. So Grot Rebel Squig Suits are small bipedal walkers, piloted by unenhanced Gretchen. They were created by Mech Snixnot, who sought to give Gretchen the ability to bounce around like a squig. But unlike riding an actual squig, this rider wouldn't have to worry about being eaten. The Squig Suit comes armed with a gas-powered lance weapon mounted behind the pilot. But to make up for their lack of ranged weapon, Squig Suits are often escorted by small little Dakadrones made in imitation of the Tau Empire gun drones. And to end part 2, we will talk about the Doom V. The Doom V is the Rebels' main transport vehicles, created to be part armored car, part mobile bunker, and it allows its passengers to shoot enemies up from close, as it has many fire points where they can shoot from. The tank itself can be armed with a range of both ballistic and flamed weapons. Few years ago, Doomvies were a big part of the revolution, with each warband having their own Doomvie modified to fit their style of fighting and appearance, with only the poorest of warbands being forced to footslog. For a while, the Grot rebels became a mobile fighting force, relishing the joys of armored warfare, their tanks serving a second purpose as mobile homes for their owners outside of combat. However, their style of warfare proved to be a costly one, and it wasn't long before the Grots were forced to abandon it, with warbands unable to afford repairs or fuel for their Doomvies. Very few remain in service, used only by the richest of warbands. And that brings us to the end of part 2 for the 40 facts on the Grot Revolution. Once again, guys, this was a fan-made chapter, so all the credit goes to its creator. If you guys want to learn more about this, I will post a link down in the description so you guys can go directly to Graz Kohl's workshop to learn more about this awesome project. So don't forget to head on over to his Facebook page and like it so you guys can be updated in all things Grot Revolution-like. Once again, 2 thumbs up to Adam for his awesome work on the Grot Revolution. Really creative mind this guy has. Really awesome to see this whole project of his pan out and be what it is. Really awesome. So once again, guys, show him some love down in the comments below, and we'll continue tomorrow with the final part on the Grot Revolution. But until then, head on over to the Facebook page where we post each and every day 40 facts, or not 40 facts. We post each and every day about Warhammer 40k, 30k, sometimes Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, nerdy stuff in general. But for now, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And as always, I'm the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you then. Just like all the other greenskins, the Grots reproduce by releasing fungal spores, which they grow into a plant-like womb underground that nourishes the life forms growing within. Surprisingly, newly grown Gretchen will often inherit genetic enhancements if their predecessor had undergone enhancements using the super juice. Due to the way that orcoid ecosystems work, it is natural that other orcoid subspecies will be produced. Squigs and snotlings are still very common within this rebellion. However, when an orc is created, the grots that tend to the spores are quick to kill it and burn its remains. Sometimes the orc will be incapacitated and sold off for either experimentation, torture, sport, or to be turned into an orc bot. Orcs who are created within Grot-controlled spawning areas are taken prisoner and will become orc bots by the greenskin mechs and painboys. A parody of an imperial servitor, the orc bot is stripped of his free will and turned into a cyborg slave. Sometimes orc bots will be used as spies, remotely controlling the orc bot. Grot mechs will lead it inside an orc fortress or encampment, claiming to be just a simple cyborg willing to join up. Once inside, the bot will be used to gather intel until it is discovered or it malfunctions. Now, there are some Grots that are lucky enough to survive numerous battles, sometimes being the only survivor of their warband, and these battle-hardened Gretchen will be rewarded with a suit of Grot mega armor and attached to a mob of mega Grots. Inspired by that worn by the orcs, Gretchen mega armor is created using thick plates of often scavenged beaky power armor, and then they are mounted on a small exo frame to allow the user to move in this cumbersome suit. The main power source for this mega armor is a small, unstable reactor located in the suit's backpack. These armored suits are the pinnacle of Grot tech, and their mechs enjoy crafting each suit with a variety of flashy bits and gubbins. As well as providing its wearer a great deal of protection, it is also armed with a powerful blasto weapon. The strength of these short-ranged weapons can vary depending on how much power the user puts into it. At max charge, it is capable of killing a Primaris Marine in one shot. However, the problem is that usually Grots overcharge this weapon, and they overload it, causing the blasta to sometimes explode. So Grot Mega Armor is fully sealed, isolating the wearer from the outside environment and protecting them from chemical and/or biological weapons, as well as toxic atmospheres. This can also help protect them when they use the suit's ability to teleport down onto the battlefield, though many accidents still occur due to the technology's unstable and unreliable nature. Grot mechs often use looted tanks and parts to create two variants of a heavy battle tank. The first is the Bonebreaker, which is the main battle tank of the Rebellion, and it's built to shrug off enemy firepower while blowing them up with return fire from its main cannon. The deadlier variant of the two is the Blaster tank. Armed with an assortment of plasma weaponry, this tank can lay waste to even the most heavily armored infantry, and it even comes equipped with a small built-in death roller for close quarters fighting. Its only weakness is that its unstable reactor causes the tank to be as much a danger to its crew as it is to its enemies, which is why only the bravest, or foolish Grots choose to crew them. If the reactor is overloaded or suffers a breach during a firefight, the unleashed plasma fire will likely burn the crew alive before reducing the whole to molten slag. The Laba lorries are short-ranged mobile artillery vehicles that the Grots use when combating a large number of enemies. The shells are designed to detonate before impact, showering the target with razor shrapnel or a highly flammable liquid. Because of this, the Laba lorry excels in claustrophobic environments of urban warfare, raining curtains of shrapnel or flame down on enemy infantry, without ever exposing its crew to harm. The Doom Diver platform is an exclusive vehicle of the Boom Blasters warband. Though little more than a small platform mounted on top of a transport, these tanks will carry around 6 Gretchen Doom Divers into battle. Each Doom Diver is loaded with explosives, one of which being the large rocket mounted on their backpacks that they use to propel themselves towards their intended target after ascending to the platform via a piston-powered lift. Due to their ability to alter their trajectory while in flight, there is no more accurate artillery in the Rebellion than the Doom Divers. The Thunder Squig gunships are large rotary aircraft geared towards raining destruction down on the enemy. Grot mechs consider them a huge accomplishment due to their size and complexity. They feature 2 huge rotor blades, one on each wing, allowing the gunship to hover or fly through the air at accelerated speeds. Most Thunder Squigs are equipped with a pair of Giga Gatling cannons, both of them able to pour out more ammunition than anything else known to man or Greenskin. Due to this high level of DACA, it is common for a Thunder Squig to fire so many shells into a target that the ruin they're sheltering is likely to collapse due to the sheer weight of rounds. To any Grot, it is an awe-inspiring sight to see so much DACA unleashed. Of course, they do need to take care when one flies overhead, as the rain of expended shells can be similar to a small meteor shower. Not all Grot mech creations get added to the Rebellion's armory. Some are considered failures by the Revolution Committee and are rarely ever used again. Take the Super Zappa, created by Mech Deathtrap, a powerful electric-based weapon platform made to strike with the force of 10 zap guns. However, when field tested, not only did it take forever to charge, but it ended up electrocuting the crew and several nearby Grots. To make matters worse, it missed the target. Another example of failed Grot tech is the Big Grabba tank. Armed with a powerful tractor cannon, its purpose was to pull down a comet from orbit to drop on enemy troops. The Revolution Committee was excited about this concept, but it turned out to be a massive disappointment, as the weapon couldn't bring the comet down fast enough, allowing the enemy time to either destroy it or scatter before the comet hit. Mech Zapmog became a laughingstock after this colossal failure, but he vowed that he would one day succeed in making the devastation he envisioned a reality. The standard weapon for a Grot rebel is the Sub-Shooter, which is a small and easily customized firearm, with a few being alike thanks to a different clip, barrel, sizes, and detachments. Grots sometimes arm themselves with rocket guns, a weapon similar to that of a grenade launcher or a flamer. Grot rebel heavy weapons are mounted on small tracked weapon platforms, which allow them to be moved more quickly and easily. The most common armament for these weapon platforms is a rocket launcher, or a small cannon. Now, due to the highly experimental and competitive nature of Grot mechs, Some weapons and war gear they have created are effective and surprisingly advanced for the small greenskins. These include the plasma-based blaster weapons, or the anti-armor zap guns, and even the tank buster guns that seem based on Imperial melta weaponry. Originally, these grots were limited to only being able to travel from planet to planet when a pirate or rogue trader agreed to ferry them, often in return for some valuable loot that the grots had found but had no interest in. This would later change after the creation of the Starship. During the campaign, the grots came across a crashed Adeptus Mechanicus light cruiser, the IX-373. Excited by such a find, the committee put the whole rebellion to the task of turning it into their own starship. The Mechanicum soon heard of this discovery of the downed craft, and the heresy of its new occupants were performed, and retrieval force was sent out to take back and recover this wreckage. By the time the Mechanicum forces arrived on the planet, against all logic, the Grots had managed to get the ship running, and they had succeeded in the impossible task of breaking orbit. This cruiser was now a Xenos abomination, with the huge visage of a Grot's face in the front of the ship's hull. The green-skinned mechs having made many modifications, including a massive increase in speed and some form of stealth technology. Because of this newly named Starship, it was able to avoid detection and escape the system. The Revolution Committee does not mind working with other races to defeat these orcs. While some may disapprove of such alliances, few can deny the advantage of having allies to help take the beating instead of the Grots themselves. Sometimes they have even hired Ogren mercenaries to serve as shock troops. Now, such an alliance was used during the earlier campaign, where a massive army of orcs, being led by Goth boss Drog, had overrun the forge planet of Glamis, and they were preparing to launch a full wall on one of the nearby Imperial systems. Seeing an excellent chance to liberate some Grots and throw a spanner into Drog's plans, the Grot Revolution snuck into Glamis and began fighting a guerrilla war against these orcs. Over the following 9 months, they had gathered valuable intel about how Goth boss Drog was going to launch his wall, and which systems he intended to hit. Knowing the rebellion couldn't directly confront the wall, Graz Kohl came up with a cunning plan to let the Humies and Beakies do the dirty work instead. The committee had learnt about a small Humie task force on this planet, commanded by a radical inquisitor called Malum Pyron, who had been tasked with investigating Glamis for details on the upcoming wall. Knowing they had what they needed, a meeting was arranged between the Inquisitor and the committee, where after some debate, both parties agreed to a trade. The information provided by the Grots proved invaluable, allowing the Imperium to bolster the defenses of the Drog's intended targets, and set in place counters for his attack plans. Graz Kohl had demanded only one thing in return, and that was Pyron's assistance in setting up a meeting with the two responsible for the Grot Rebels' enhancements all these years ago, Inquisitor Hadrak Valerius and his associate, the Adeptus Biologus Tech Priest, both of which Graz Kohl had not seen any trace of since he was first set loose on the orc encampment so long ago. With his task on Glamis complete, Inquisitor Pyron was intrigued by Hadrak's work, having just seen the advantages of the rebellious Gretchen. No stranger to embracing the weapons of the enemy, and even employing his own alien agents, he agreed to help Graz Kohl find his creator. Soon after the Glamis campaign, a meeting was arranged at an empty warehouse within an abandoned Imperial facility. Both Inquisitors and the Tech Priests were present, and the three of them evaluating the performance of the Xenos agents and how they could further benefit the Imperium. They began to talk and converse further. Both Inquisitors had brought their retinues with them, and they were taking no chances with the Revolution's leader. They made sure he was alone and unarmed. Everything had gone as Graz Kohl had planned. By keeping the Grot mech's recent discovery of teleportation technology a secret, he carried a small teleport homer disguised as a metal tooth, and he was able to spring his trap. After biting down on this fake tooth, the hall was suddenly filled with lightning and concussive booms of teleportation, as a large group of Megagrots appeared. Surprised and blinded by their arrival, the armored Gretchen were easily able to gun down all of the retinue, and all that was left was Graz Kohl and Hadrak. Graz Kohl then picked up a nearby pistol, spinning on the spot to face Hadric, pistol raised. Graz Kohl declared that the Grots would never again be slaves, before shooting his creator straight through the head. With the Grot Revolution continuing to grow and becoming a full Gretchen war, Graz Kohl was forced to think of a better way to make himself an awe-inspiring figure for his boys, and also a fearsome opponent for his enemies. And that's when the Red Gobbo project began. To achieve the boss's goal, the rebellion invaded the Xanatos system, and they quickly established a large base of operation on the desert world of Kroll. Over the course of the campaign, the Grots would perform a series of raids, pillaging everything needed for the Red Gobbo project. Their most ambitious act was assaulting an armored train belonging to the local Adeptus Mechanicus forces. Engaging the train's escorts, the Grots managed to board and make off with a number of valuable power cores, just as the Black Templars arrived to reinforce it. Instead of being shipped back to the main base in Kroll, these parts gathered for the Red Gobbo project were smuggled into a small town on the local agri-world of Oben. Here the Grots had killed off the town's inhabitants and turned the largest grain silos into workshops to construct their new weapon of war in secret. The town was left untouched, the bodies disposed of so it could be mistaken as simply a ghost town. When an enemy force got too close to the town, the Grots would cease their activities and fall silent until the threat simply walked away. The Grots managed to hide their presence for quite some time, but unfortunately they were discovered by a local defense force patrol, who was able to get the word out before they were killed. With the secret out, rebel forces were brought in to defend the workshops, as the mechs worked hard to complete their new project. A pair of Imperial Knights and their Skitarii cohorts marched onto the town. The Grots tried hard to keep them at bay, but the Twin Knights' unstoppable fury was easily able to shatter any defenses that the Revolution could put up. The battle seemed all but lost, until one of the grain silos exploded, as a colossal mechanical walker that was the Red Gobbo rushed out to meet these two knights. The Red Gobbo is Graz Kohl's personal combat walker, which he sometimes refers to it as his suit of mega armor, rather than a large mech. Graz Kohl pilots the Red Gobbo through a specialized exosuit that allows him to simultaneously interface and control this machine. The Red Gobbo's right arm can be fitted with either a battle cannon, or if the boss wants, to satisfy his love for Daka, a large Gatling cannon. The top of the torso is fitted with a rocket launcher. However, this can also be swapped out for a Gretchen manned flak turret, in order to deal with enemy flyers that are too up high for the Red Gobbo to deal with directly. Its main close-quarter weapon is a massive circular blade, that when activated, its edges are superheated by a thermal torch within the arm to allow it to cut through even the thickest of armor plating with ease. On its back are mounted two thrusters that when fired allow the Red Gobbo to maneuver more quickly in close quarters. The mouth of the Red Gobbo is fitted with loudspeakers, allowing Graz Kohl to communicate with those around him and shout challenges to his enemies. At his request, the mechs also fitted it with a Scorcha, allowing the Red Gobbo to breathe fire. This was unleashed on the agri-world of Oban. Nearby infantry was thrown to the floor as its thunderous tread shook the ground as it stampeded towards these two Imperial Knights. Firing the back thruster, Graz Kohl was able to deliver one swift blow that sliced clean through the joint below the knight's torso, cutting it in two. This sight to the Red Gobbo gave the rebel Grots a second wind, and together they were able to bring down the second Imperial Knight and defeat the remaining Skitarii. Graz Kohl remains the rebel's most cunning strategist, but when he needs to take to the battlefield, he will always unleash the raw destructive force that is the Red Gobbo. And unfortunately, that brings us to the end of the collaboration with the Red Star Grot Army Revolution. Big ups to Adam for his 40 facts on these, which was spread across 4 videos. So if you guys haven't seen the other parts, I greatly recommend you get to our playlist on the Grot Revolution and check those out. Really awesome conversion work, really awesome lore, and very flavorful characters. A huge thank you to you, Adam, for all this work that you put in. as I can tell you really love this army. You have made it really, really great. GW should canonize this, make it awesome, because I could definitely see this work in an orc, kind of like an orc supplement or something like that. So again, huge thank you to you, and hopefully we can work again later on in the future. But for now, guys, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. What did you like about this army? Do you want more Knight on Red Gobbo action? Of course you do. So head on over to Graz Kohl's workshop. We have links down in the description to take you over to Adam's page, where you guys can find all things Graz Revolution army related. As always, don't forget to check us out on our Twitter, our Instagram, our Patreon, and our Facebook page for more things 40k and nerdy stuff related. And this has been the end of the Graz Revolution Army videos. As always, I am the Sound Alchemist, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.